Welcome to Engineering Influence, the podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies, coming to you from the 2025 Annual Convention and Legislative Summit. And today, during our general session, we had a fantastic presentation on a new research study that is being produced by the ACEC Research Institute in conjunction with BST Global on everyone's favorite topic these days, AI. And exactly what it means for the industry, what it means for the practice of engineering, and how our firms operate. And to talk about that study, I'm very pleased to be joined by Joe Bates, Senior Researcher with the Institute. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jeff. Thank you. I always enjoy having the opportunity to speak with you. So thanks for having me today.
I'm glad that you're in person. We've done like the past 5 of these things remotely, so I'm glad that you're actually here. So
it's nice to be face to face.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Instead of digital, which is what we're talking about today. Actually, it's AI. You can't go a day without hearing about AI, right?
Yeah.
Every single day, it seems like there's another breakthrough. It seems like the researchers are going at a breakneck pace. No question is changing the industry. This study, though, is really the first of its kind to kind of take a look at AI, its impact, and really what the future holds. So kind of tell us a little bit about the study and the general approach that you took.
Sure. So this is the first study in our Firm of the Future series. And there's a reason it's the first one. It's the most important development in the world, really, in many ways, and certainly in our industry as well. So the idea was we need to make sure we bring a level playing field for all ACEC member firms. And you don't even have to be a member to be able to access this study. So I pitched it as the AI 101 for engineering, because there's 40% of firms who actually have not even started looking into AI. There might be people in their firm, using it here or there, but as firm leaders, they're not aware. And so we wanted to do a historical background. We wanted to conduct interviews with people who are in the field right now, who are using it, who are trying to advance their organization. So we talked to 20 individuals from firms that were very large, multinational, to, smaller regional firms, all different sectors, and even firms that were just starting out using AI, and firms who are very, very advanced in what they're doing. And we also asked them about the future. What does the future hold in terms of what they see? So those were sort of the 3 components that we addressed in the report.
Overall, the findings aren't negative, right? It's you kind of hold your breath and you hope that it's not going to be, this is going to be a disruptor, but it's going to actually negatively impact the industry. But really what you found is that it's going to not replace, but enhance the talent that's already in place at firms.
Absolutely. We have roughly 27% of our firm employees who are going to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. That's a lot of people when you're talking about 1.5 million employed directly by our industry. So 25% of that, it's a lot, right? It's 300,000 people. We don't have enough young people to replace them. Part of it is there's fewer individuals going into engineering. Part of it is that half of those who graduate with an engineering degree are in the U.S. on a F1 student visa, and there are not enough jobs in terms of H-1B applications to go around. So we have a huge challenge from a workforce perspective, and AI is going to help us. We're going to need it. In fact, it's coming at the right time, and it's going to make engineers and others in the office more productive.
It's the production and efficiency side. I mean, it's AI is a fantastic tool at aggregating and analyzing aggregate data, and firms have a lot of that, right? So one of the things I found was interesting is that AI as a virtual employee kind of, actually, there are a couple of podcasts I've been listening to where the findings of the study were kind of echoed. It was the idea of you have the costs associated with onboarding new employees. You have the sourcing of talent for new employees, and AI can serve kind of as a research assistant to existing engineers to take care of things that are more mundane, aggregating code, instead of having to pour through code, having AI kind of identify things very quickly. So it takes that time out so you can focus in on the actual engineering work.
Right.
Yeah.
There's absolutely limitations right now and things that people want to do, but they're not there yet and they're planning on it. They're working on it. But the potential is really amazing when you start to talk to these firms that are actually using AI in amazing ways.
Yeah.
So there was this one firm leader that I talked with, and he said, we needed to conduct an inspection for repairs of a commuter train platform, and it was concrete overhead.
Yeah.
And when they arrived on the site, they looked up and there was a lot of cracks, right? And some bigger than others. And it would have taken, people laying on their back, literally mapping, hand drawing where they needed to make fixes. Well, what they did was they brought in a drone with very high resolution imagery, and they then used software to map all that together. And they created this immensely highly detailed image of the structure.
Yeah.
AI then went in and said, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
And
here we go.
Where
Exactly.
Now we know what we need to do. It would have taken months of an individual or more individuals laying on their back and mapping that out. And they did that in a matter of a week or so.
Exactly.
And then they were able, the client said, we've never had this level of detail to actually then cost the project. And they were like, we had the closest, discrepancies in costs from all these different contractors that we've ever seen. Yeah. And the contractors were like, this is amazing. And they got it done very easily and efficiently and quickly.
And that's going to be replicated across the industry. I mean, people are going to find new use cases. I mean, I was talking to a member firm principal earlier today on an EA winner, TSX Broadway. And we got talking to a couple of other projects that he worked on, St. Patrick's Cathedral being one of them. And it was right in the, Langen Engineering was the firm, and they do geotech work. And when they were doing the rehabilitation of St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, what they realized is that they could use laser scanning and LiDAR to actually create a model. And at the time, that wasn't done. And he kind of explained about being on the leading edge of that technology and how much of a revelation it was to the people who were doing the restoration work. And, I think it's going to be a really important tool, AI, for creative people within firms to leverage technology in ways where they otherwise couldn't. It's going to be a big business differentiator for firms.
I absolutely agree. And I think it's going to allow, based on our research and based on what I've learned from doing this research, we are going to be able to do things that we haven't done before because we have the time to spend and the time to focus on the creativity, which we haven't really had before. So, and I think younger people today, I think you're going to be able to harness different skill sets that they have as well. They're going to be trained as engineers. There's a lot of people who have a lot of creative outlets, right? They might play guitar. They might draw. Well, we need creativity from all different workers to approach problems in a different way. And so I think we're going to have a lot more time to do that.
The younger generation is always, every generation is less put off or concerned by technology if it's being used by the generation currently in office, right? So you're going to have these next generations that are going to be, AI is going to be a tool. It's not going to have an area of concern. That's the future. Currently, what are you seeing? I mean, we talked about the positives, but so what are the barriers that are right now present?
So right now, from the numbers side, right, we've got 40% of firms who just haven't even started, really, right? But yet the sentiment is very positive, and it's growing. It's positively growing. So we asked the question 2 different times in the last year and a half, and even more firm leaders are positive about the impact AI will have on their firm. So lots of positivity out there. But what we're hearing, and the interviews really brought this out as well, that there's sort of half of the people, and in general, right? There's a half that they're really excited. They want to know more about it. And they're trying to figure out, where do I start? So that right there is like, okay, well, we need a roadmap to help these individuals know where to start, how to go through this. So that's one challenge. But then the other half are, I don't know about this. We've been doing things the way we've been doing them, and I'm worried that we're going to sacrifice quality or something, right? If we don't do it the way we've always done it. And sure, I understand that. You should be cautious with the new technology. But it really is this sort of institutional hesitancy, trying something different and trying something new. And this is somewhat human nature as well.
Yeah,
a little bit more maybe in engineering because we're a risk averse industry. But I do think it's just the resistance to change. I honestly think what I'm hearing, what people are telling me that they're facing, that's the biggest challenge, is just resistance to change.
And that's the tale as old as time when it comes to new technologies coming out, right? Getting quick adoption is always a challenge. Something as pervasive as AI and seeing how it's used outside of engineering and the general population, is enough to make people pause. But I mean, a lot of it comes down to education and the fact that AI is not a monolith, right? It's a technology that can be applied uniquely to your needs at a firm, which is something different than the internet, let's say, which is like a utility.
Right. Yeah. You put in a query in the internet and it brings you back information.
Yeah.
And you put in something in AI and it gives you information or it produces something, but it's not right all the time. And so that's why we are always going to need the human element.
Yeah.
So there's a challenge there in that AI is not perfect. It's going to learn over time, but there's always going to be the need for humans to do that quality control check, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
Right. Maybe another couple generations will be different. But for the emerging workforce coming now and for the next 20 years, it's really, okay, let's train it to do what we need it to do. And that's another challenge.
Yes.
Because it only can use what you're telling it and feeding it.
Yeah.
And then how do we manage it and help it to grow over time? Like, it's in its infancy, truly.
Exactly. And then again, it opens the door to the firm of the future. What is the firm of the future going to look like, right? Because someone who's writing an AI agent doesn't need to be a licensed engineer, right? Somebody who is training that agent is more of a data scientist. So kind of extrapolating off of the study and the work that Firm of the Future is already doing, how do you think AI is going to really just influence that changing dynamic of what an engineering firm is?
So this is something we asked, 20 different individuals. And what we heard the most often is that AI is going to augment the staff.
Yeah.
It's going to make us more efficient, but you have to have people who can learn how to understand and utilize and map out AI and what are the workflows? What are the new workflows? What are the new business models? And so you're going to have to retrain and retool the existing workforce that's not going to retire in the next 5 or 10 years. And the younger people are going to honestly be the ones, I think, to carry this forward. Just as I was, 30 years ago when I was working at a political polling firm and they're like, hey, we're doing surveys, but we're still hand punching things into the, computer or tabulating them by hand. And I was like, you've got a computer here. Let me show you how to use it. So I think you're going to have a lot of that. And what we also heard was some of those other challenges, but connecting with that workforce is we're seeing the most successful firms have engineers who are super interested in AI because you do need to understand engineering.
Absolutely.
That's the best case scenario. You have your engineering people who then start to understand AI, who can then start to program the AI and teach the AI. It's going to be a little slower and a little less perfect if you have the engineers trying to tell the people creating AI how to, here's what we need, how to, it's kind of interesting, but I do think that we're going to see an AI enabled workforce in the next 5 to 10.
And I think that's the biggest, again, with it's an AI enabled workforce, not an AI replaced workforce.
That's what we're hearing.
That is,
and that's what we're seeing so far, even. There was one interviewee and he talked about, because he's been in a lot of different industries, but he's an engineer by training. And he talked about in computer coding, you would have what's called a 10x employee. I'd never heard this before, but it's like, yeah, it's pretty common. You call them a 10x because they just get it. They can sit down and they can crank out that code 10 times faster. They're worth 10 employees. And he said, AI is going to let every engineer become 10x.
Yes.
And that was when I was like, now I get it.
Yeah. It's a force multiplier for the industry. The study is great. I think that everybody out there should access it because it's a good primer. You go through the kinds of AI because there's not one kind.
Yeah.
Generative AI or what have you, all the different kinds. And then you get into the nitty gritty about use cases and what people are seeing. So, Joe, we're going to be putting that out on the Research Institute website. And again, you don't have to be a member to access that research.
Right.
What comes next after this?
So we're already working on our next project. It is workforce. And I don't quite have a working title yet for it. But what we are trying to do is to quantify those workforce challenges that we're sort of anecdotally talking about. We've got a little data here, a little data there, and we're finding a lot of conflicting data. So I want to get some reliable data. Here's the number of students who have graduated. Here's the demographic pipeline. So start from the big funnel, go down to the small funnel, and really quantify what the current situation is with the current workforce. And on the other end, how many are going to retire in the next 10 years? Okay, so that's one piece. And that way we'll have the numbers that we can use to talk about. The second piece is going to be all about skills and expectations. Because if you are looking to be that firm of the future, how are you going to attract the talent that's actually interested in working? Okay. So we're going to understand what the young workers are looking for in firms, what skill sets they think they need, and what skill sets they're interested in developing. And we're going to compare that to what the firm leaders are saying they think they need and are looking
we'll
for.
see how they line up.
Where's the gap? And that gap is where we then can start to address the challenges, other challenges that are maybe preventing us from developing the workforce that we need.
That's fantastic. I think every additional release of Institute research is just another move down the line of really just informing our members and also the public about engineering. I mean, you started off with the economic stuff, actually sizing and scoping the size of the impact. Now we're going into workforce, going into technology and firm of the future. So it is just great stuff that keeps on coming out. So, keep it up. Keep it up.
Thank you, Jeff. It's I have a lot of fun doing this. And so we thank the supporters, the donors of the ACEC Research Institute. We need more so we can expand the work even further and continue to do the great work that we're doing now.
Well, fantastic. Joe, thanks again for being part of the program. Look forward to continuing to have you on to talk about the new research coming out. We just did Q2. We'll do Q3 on the sentiment study. So all this stuff is going to be continuing on. So again, this has been Engineering Influence, a podcast for the American Council of Engineering Companies, and we will see you next time.